Okay, so the starting point is sample, and we've got a collection of different styles here in the folder, and I definitely want to go for a deep house kind of vibe. So what I want to do is take a listen through. Now I'm a big fan of the Rhodes, so it's very likely for me to dive into something like that. Now at the moment I'm not even considering the musical key, I'm just listening for something that I like the sound of. Okay, now I'm gravitating towards this, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drag it on, and I'm going to switch my push over to session, and I can trigger this now. Now what I want to do is I want to be able to just trigger it and play around with that for a bit. So just going to double click on this and I'm going to take a look over here, and the actual clip itself, I want to go to the L here, click it so I can see the launch settings. And what I want to do is, I'm going to go for the launch mode of trigger, but my quantization, I don't want that global, because at the moment up here that is set to the bar. So what I want instead is I want this to be quite fast. I want to be able to trigger this clip whenever I want. So probably 16th would be good, maybe a bit too fast. Let's just go for the 8 subdivision. So look. So what's really nice, I can just keep re-triggering that. Now the tempo, 117 is actually really nice. I think that's going to make a good tempo for this particular track idea. So I'm going to just have a play around. Just going to change the start point. Just going a little journey through the sample. Now that sounds really interesting there at the end. So I'm using the controller just to get a vibe on stuff, and what I think I'll do is I'll really focus in on that. I'm going to take the loop brace, just get it set up so that's going to loop. There we go. So I really like what's going on with that. I'm going to keep that there. So anyway, you saw what was going on there. I was inspired just by triggering it rapidly. Now what I've done is I've taken the clip and put the loop brace on, so I've kind of captured the essence of that. So I'm going to say here, this is, let me just keep some of that information about the musical key and stuff so I don't forget. So what I'm going to do is we are going to say here R1, so this is kind of like Rhodes 1. So I'm going to keep that looping. That's a real nice vibe. Just going to duplicate the clip, come down to the second. On this, I'm going to take transposition down. Yeah, I like that. And then I'm going to duplicate that. So that's down to here. Let's bring this one up. Alright, that's a good little vibe. What I'm trying to do is build up a little sketch pad of sections that I can use. And let me just get the naming right on these. So R2, R3. I think there's a little bit more value in that sample. I'm going to come down here, just creating a gap so I can visually see what's going on. I know that something's a bit different here. I'm going to trigger, bring this over. I like that, definitely like that, but I feel maybe the loop position could be a bit different. Just zoom in, see if there's a little bit more mileage by moving it over. Yeah, I like that. Gonna put the click on. Just gonna take it back to the beginning, just double check. Always worth experimenting just to see what comes out. I think I like that, it's got that kind of offbeat kind of vibe to it. Let's check the others again. Okay, now hearing that progression, I'm not happy with that, so I'm just going to adjust that and take it slightly different. Maybe to the beginning. No, something's still not right about this. I really want to get a similar vibe or texture to the other ones. And what I'm going to do, I'm now finding whilst I'm playing, I'm going to select all these clips in fact, is that the quantization of the 8 subdivisions is just a little bit too fine detail. I'm going to take it to 4. We're now going to have that real kind of MPC style switching. Okay, yeah, now something just is not right about that. Let me try something different. Do you know what? There's a lot of mileage in this this sample. I've got to get the right point. That sounds good. Let me take that. This I'm going to color slightly differently. When I say slightly, that's quite radically different. Let me do a duplicate here. Let's get in there and get some more vibes. So with this, let's try down low. Okay, now to complete this, let's go for like, let me just undo that. Let me just duplicate, play that. And let's think about the transposition, maybe up a few. So we've got a similar vibe to the first idea. So I think that's a nice core idea. What we'll do is we'll start working on some beats. So I'm going to get myself set up with the drum rack, and just going to start off with an empty one, and we're going to build up the drum kit from the samples from that library. Okay, so let me just go back to where I was before, and there's a whole bunch of one-shot drum samples in here. Now I'm going to be looking for something nice and quite heavy. Just going to try and interpret some of these names. Solid kick is probably going to be a good starting point. See what I'm going to do, just so I get a sense of what's going on. I'm going to drag something in, and I'm just going to get the clip running. And you know, we're literally just looking for a kick on every beat on this particular one, I think. Let me just see. Now whilst I'm doing this, I'm in danger of clipping. I don't want the screen recording software to get in a mess with the sound, so I'm going to stick on here a audio effect, and we're just going to stick on the limiter, and this is literally just to protect the levels going into screen recording. I'll try and be mindful about levels as we go. I don't like to tend to push into the limiter whilst I'm composing too much, because it means that you get used to it, you know, so I'm going to keep it as it is. Now funny enough, that kick sounds really nice. I just want to double check. I'm going to use the hot swap mode. Just come down. Now I like the graininess of that. That's got a real nice kind of low thud, but a nice crisp sort of click on there. It's a little bit too 909 for me. Something about that I like. It gives the Rhodes lots of space. So does that. That was the first one. Okay, this is the one I'm going for, okay? So, got ourselves a kick drum. I'm going to go and grab some other bits and pieces, and I'm going to do this time, I'm going to trigger something on top. So, I'm going to take my push out of the session mode and go to note mode, and just going to see what's going on with this. So you can see the step sequencing is going on with push. Don't worry about that if you haven't got a push. I'm going to be triggering stuff in on the fly. Maybe another kick drum. Now that sounded quite interesting. Yeah, that sounds good, but I just want to double the length of the clip. In fact, you can do this over here, duplicate loop. So this is going to be like a little kind of kick fill. So just going to get this recording. Now I played that in live. I actually really like the flavour of that. I'm going to keep it there for the moment. Get this named. Just going to switch my clips just to get a vibe on that. Yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction. So let's get the rest of these drum samples. And so obviously, if I'm building a kit, what I need is some key elements. The kick drum's locked down for the moment. Let's get some other elements. I always like to grab a few bits and pieces like shakers and tambourines and stuff. So I'm going to look for something quite nice and crunchy. Probably this one, and I'm not really following any kind of general MIDI. In fact, I'm definitely not following the general MIDI template for where the sounds go. So, you know, when you're running this cursor over, can you see it's got a suggestion hand clap? I'm totally ignoring that at the moment. It's up to you guys whether you want to follow that stuff. It gives you consistency with your kits, but I tend to just prefer to go with a vibe, you know, and see what happens. So back onto note mode. There's a shaker. That sounded pretty nice. I might bring that up and then also transpose that down a bit. So I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm just going to vibe on it. I think I'm going to record that in. Feels a little bit loose, that one. Just going to quantize it. If you're curious about the grid that I'm using, let me just show you. My quantized settings at the moment for the grid are 16 triplet. I'm really feeling that triplet vibe. I think that's going to work. In fact, maybe I should do that with everything. I'm going to see how that feels. Yeah, I'm going to roll with that. Okay, so look, here we go. Let's get some other elements in there. The shaker's good. Let me get... I want to lock it down on every other beat with something like a snare or a clap. Let me see. The claps. Okay, that sounds quite nice and loose. These two, I like the sound of those. They sort of complement each other. Okay, I'm going to record that one. I'm going to have that on the real standard. I'll just lock it in here. I want you guys to see a mixture of me playing stuff in and me clicking stuff in as well, because I want you to appreciate the grid position. So let's get that playing. Gonna pan the shaker. Yeah, the vibe's sounding good. Now what can I do with that other clap? I quite like that. It's a bit loud though. I missed the record. Let me try again. Okay, sounding nice and loose. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me just focus on the beat just on its own. Just panning that a little bit at the moment. I'm not too concerned with mixing, but I just do a little bit as I go along. Do you know what? I'm feeling that could actually sound nice. I said that I wasn't going to do any mixing, but I've got a gut feeling that maybe just a dash of reverb. And this is the default live template, and the settings here, I'm just going to wipe that clean and just quickly just load up a default on there, and then customize it. Just go to 100% wet because this is a send and return effect. And I've just remembered actually that the actual individual drums here, we can't route via sends in the default configuration. There is a way to do it. It's a little bit long-winded and I'm not going to dive into it on this video. So what I wanted to do, I'm just going to quickly grab this. I'm going to keep that there, by the way. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and drag this on. So I've got this as basically running in an insert configuration. So that means with the insert configuration, I'm just going to take the dry wet mix a little bit lower. So you hear that? Nice bit of space around there. So that's a contrast. I've got my existing clap dry. I want that nice and snappy. This clap's adding a bit of space. I wouldn't advise putting both with the reverb because it's just going to give a sense of a little bit too splashiness. I'm wanting a nice bit of contrast here. Let's just go back to my session, flip the clips. I don't know if you've noticed, but these three clips here, they actually sound a lot louder. So I'm just going to come here, going to bring them down by about 3 dBs and see how that feels. All right, so let me switch between those. Yeah, okay, so that's good. Let's just finish off this basic beat. Let's work out what we're going to do with the rest of it. And maybe a snare, maybe some percussive elements. I'm not sure yet. Let's take a look. So we've got some spaces here. Let's come back to the library. Where was I? I was down here. Let's find some. Let's take this away. And definitely want to get an open hi-hat of some sort. Okay, now that's quite a short open hi-hat, but I think that might work. Let's just have a look. Let's go back onto note mode. Now I like that. It's a bit kind of, it feels like it needs something else. I'll work on that in a second. Okay, that was an accident. Just going to undo that. Here we go. Now there's something about that, the fact that I didn't play that in time, I quite liked. So I'm going to try and remember to keep that where that is. That's nice. What else we got? Now I want something else like that. So a contrast, we had the existing one, then a longer one. That could go somewhere. Okay, like that, doubling up on the other one every now and again. So just going to double click that in there. Okay, that's nice. But you know what? I might add a little bit of texture to that. We're going to use the audio effects. And I think some phasing would be nice. Now to make this work, just take the amount up. That makes the LFO work. We're going to get some movement. Slow it down a bit. Just going to take the feedback up. It's going to be more obvious. Got a nice little bit of movement there occurring. And also some pan position going on because of the phase here. Now I'm wondering, I'm hearing a little bit of bottom end on there. Whoa, let me just take that dynamic tube off. EQ8. Yeah, it feels quite thick on the bottom, so I'm going to roll that off. See how that fits now. Okay, that's good. Maybe the final thing for the kit could be a snare. You know, that could be what I'm looking for. So let's come back. And I do actually want to try some percussion as well. I'll do that in a minute. So look, where are we? There's something about that I like. It's got a bit of a clap in there. Now I wonder, let's come back. Let's get to this. Let's drag it on. Back onto note mode. Okay, it doesn't feel like I want to have that every kind of every bar. I think it's going to be more of a kind of 2-bar alternating thing. Let's have a look. What did I just do? I started a new clip. Ignore me, ignore me. All right, let's just get back into this one. You know what? Sometimes when you're in the heat of it, it's easy to get distracted. Let's get back to this. Okay, I'll record it in. That's nice. Just going to quantize that one. Okay, you know what? I think I preferred it how I played it in. Yeah, I'm going to keep that. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And do you know what? Maybe there's space for another. A little skippy kind of snare, very kind of thin. Maybe this one. Maybe this one. Let's come back on there. Okay, I want to duplicate that loop so I can get that nice variation in there. Okay, look, I got my sensitivity on my push a little bit too high. So let me just take my finger away from that. Okay, I'm going to add a couple more in there. Okay, that's good, but I'm thinking this one maybe over a bit. Whoa, no. Let me quantize that and move it over, maybe. Let me just do it from here. Right, let me just switch this grid. What is it? Command and 3 onto the triplet so we can see that. There we go. Now what I'm feeling is I'm missing this kind of hit here, so ultimately I think I'm just going to make a copy of that, you know. Okay, the fill needs refining. Let me just take this over here. Not sure. Maybe just mute this, push 0. I like that because it felt a little bit too obvious that it was a fill. Really, I'm just going for something that offers some nice variation as the beats run. So I'm going to go with that. Let me just see how this sounds with my other clips. And also, whilst I'm here, do something here, an experiment. And then these clips. Okay, so the beats are sounding good. It's time to start thinking about maybe a bass line. Now, if we're going to do a bass sound, there's something that we need to consider. There's actually a hefty amount of bass in the Rhodes sample. So if I bring on the EQ8, we can see that on the left-hand side. And this is activated now over here. So I could roll this up, just thin that out. That's too much. We're losing loads of the guts. So look, if I bring this down, let me just put this onto the first band. You can see the control that I've got mapped. It's kind of spoiling it in a way, you know. It's feeling like we're losing some of the guts there. So if I was just to take this and switch to the auto filter, there's definitely a vibe that we can get from there. It's a real electronic vibe. I really like that. And we'd be missing out on that bass if I rolled off that filter over here, the EQ8, too much. So this is just something to think about. Trying to fit in the kick drum, a bass sound that we're about to add, and also that Rhodes is something that we'd need to juggle, and there may be some compromises that we'd need to make. Now, I'll come back to that, all right? So I'll leave that there in place. Let's go to a MIDI track, set up an instrument, gonna load up a sampler, and let's try and find a good bass sample in the collection. So if we come back to this and let me go to that general collection of samples again and head down into the Deep House folder and go to bass loops. Now I'm not looking for a loop as such, I'm looking for an individual sound. I'm going to drag this down, just going to experiment, just take this through. I think it was probably this one over here. Let's just have a look. Let's go into the note mode. Oh, I forgot this is solo. Let me just do this solo, this one. Let me listen to that Rhodes. Now that's a note I'm kind of hearing would work. Bring the level up. Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, maybe. Okay, I quite like that. Let me just keep that. I don't know whether I'm going to include that bit at the end. Now actually that feels like it might work. I'm going to record that in, but I'm not sure if that's the bass sound that I'm going to stick with. Let's just have a look. Okay, so I just did that and that's pretty much ready to go on there. Let me just quantize that. I'm going to adjust the note length. You know, note lengths are really crucial when you're actually creating bass lines. Getting a nice variation between longer notes and short notes, just to keep the vibe, get it going, stop it from being repetitive. The other thing is your bass notes often at certain points in the track are going to be on their own, so they've got to stand up on their own 2 feet as well. Shorter note on here. Let me take the velocities higher. Okay, now that bit at the end of the bass sound is putting me off a little bit, so I'm going to take this, take it up to here. Okay, so look, let's say that's bass idea 1. I'm not sure that's going to be the best one to use. Of course, we need to make some variations here. So look, if I play this, take this and make sure it's playing. So what did we do with that? We took this down -3 semitones. If I make a duplication of this bass idea 1, take all of this, select it, and then go 1, 2, 3 down, hopefully we've got a bass that will go with it. Yeah, look. Bring the beats back. And I'm going to switch the scenes. In fact, let me just do this over here on the push. We go to the top. And what I'm going to do on that Rhodes is just bring that filter down. Make sure I'm on the right one. Let's bring this down here. Okay, now this is actually feeling like it's going to be good to go. You know, when you're actually working on a track idea, you've got to experiment with some of the other textures. Sometimes when they're just straight up, i.e., you know, before this was filtered, it maybe wasn't working so well, but now when I'm playing with that filter, it does feel as if this vibe can work. So if I take this down and then take a look at what I had for the tuning here, I had +2 semitones. And in fact, I need to take that based on the original pitching. So if I select all of these, go 1, 2, up, we should have something that's going to fit in with that third Rhodes chord. And let me just make sure, there we go, auto filter selected. Okay, now I'm starting to feel reasonably confident that this is going to work. Let me see if these will transpose down here as well. Okay, so this is pretty much like for like. There we go. Now that was lucky. Doesn't always go so smoothly. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, wicked. Now let me just try the lower one. In fact, the higher one, should I say? And then back. Okay, yeah, cool. So let me take the Rhodes, come back to this filter. Now that's good. Now I still feel maybe there's a little bit more mileage. I'm going to duplicate that bass. I'm going to rename this to 2, and let me select all of this lot, come down here. Let's get the naming convention right. So we're going to do over here. Let me do slightly different color. And well, they're deselected. Let me see if I can just do that again. There we go. We see what's going on here. So bass idea 2. On here, let me actually do the hot swap and see if we can find something else. And I'm after a contrasting bass sound. Okay, there's something about that I like. So I'm going to load that up, and let me just have a look at this. Okay, yeah, do you know what? I need to get rid of all of these and instead do something that's going to complement it. So let's have a listen. Let's take it up an octave. Yeah, maybe something like that. Let me just try that. Okay, let me see. Let's quantize it. And let's do something a bit different with it. Just lengthening that a bit, so that when we've got the shorter notes, it fades down a bit more. And this feels like it needs some kind of effect, like a ping pong delay. And I'm also going to filter out the bass on this too. So here we go. Right, that's working nice. So you know what I'm going to do to help myself here. So this is -3. So 1 -3 semitones. That means this, I just duplicate this, take these notes, select them all, 1, 2, 3 down. So -3 semitones. This one here, duplicate, what was it? Let's come back to, let me just double check I'm on the right track here. Yeah, +2. In fact, that was the first one once again. So over here now, select all, 1, 2, so +2, +2, +2 semitones. So we should have that working now. And then the other one. Yep. Now I want an extra dimension to this. I'm going to use erosion to add some extra texture. There we go. Let's take this up a bit more, so there's less of a clash between the two at certain points. Okay, let me check this now. A little bit too much feedback on the delay. So remember, feedback is the amount of echoes. High amount of feedback means lots of echoes. Low feedback means less echoes. Check next. Let me get those beats duplicated down as well, so we keep these. And bring the Rhodes back. Okay, so yeah, you know what? I'm feeling we definitely got to do something with these Rhodes parts. I mean, they might be good straight up as they are at the moment, but I feel we need to do something different with them. But anyway, look, for the moment, let me just take these three, bring these down. So you can see we're starting to sketch out a little bit of an arrangement kind of concept. I mean, we're going to need to do some variations, but for the moment, this feels like it's going to work. Let me just double check this lot. Okay, that's a good point to save. And yeah, this is really shaping up now. A couple of bass textures there working nicely. And yeah, I want to start working on the Rhodes next. So what I'm feeling I want to do with the Rhodes is to record that automation in that I was doing before. Now I need to have a think about this, because what I don't want to do is to limit myself. All right, so I think what I'm going to need to do is to basically just strip back some of this information here so that I can get a little bit more real estate with the clips. And you know, I need to just basically make use of these scenes along the right hand side. And so, I mean, this is all going to make sense as I progress through this. All right, so I still want to keep these where I've got these sections without the filter. I still feel that they're going to be useful, but equally I need to record the filter in. So that means that what I need to do is to make a kind of duplicate. And I'm feeling that actually potentially this could go later on in the track. So what I'm going to do is take this and sorry, I got my key commands messed up there. I'm doing Shift plus click to select all of these now, and I want to duplicate them. So I did Command plus D, and you can see they're all here. But what I want to do, I just want to create a scene and just move this up just to separate them. So you can see what I'm using. I'm using these empty kind of rows to signify sections. And that's going to be good there for the moment. Now what I want to do is I'm going to rename here filter 1, and just going to get it going and record something in. So to do that on the push, I have to arm the automation. So that's on, and notice over here on the app this icon is illuminated. I'm going to take it off and then back on. Alright, so that means the automation is armed. So with the selected effect, if I move it, I'm going to get some recording into the clip. So over here on this Rhodes, let's zoom in a bit. Let's take a look and see what happens. I'm going to get ready with the rotary. I'm going to try and get this kind of offbeat vibe. the one thing I did forget to do is to push record. So let me get that down now. All right, so here we go. Recording. So you can see I'm just trying to catch the right one. That's not perfect. Let me keep going. Nearly. Obviously you can see I made a little bit of a mistake over here, so what I'm going to do is select that, just clearing those, pushing backspace, and you know what, for me this is good, but I just need to move it over a bit. Yeah, I'm feeling that. So look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, Command plus C, come over here, select, Command plus V. You can see I'm dropping it in here, and this is great to be able to do this. I'm copying over that automation that I recorded in. So let's just see how this is now. Switch over. Wicked. Right, that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename here filter 2, and let me just have a look again. You know, the thing is I mean, that sounds great, but I could even do another variation where I kind of like selected all of this. Sorry, let me just go back to that. So I would select all of this and then actually raise it up as well. This is another variation. You know, there's a lot of possibilities here, but I also don't want to have too much choice, because that's when it's going to start getting complicated. So let me go back to the first one. Oh man, actually that sounds great with that filter down low. So really, I wanted that contrast with it open. Yeah, definitely starting to get into this. You know, this is the thing, you know, these ideas really start evolving and coming alive, and giving yourself a broad palette of different things to have a play around with. Certainly that's the whole vibe in composing with Ableton Live. Building up a selection of clips in the session view and then jamming with them into the actual arrangement view. You know, that's one of the approaches. Some of you guys might have seen my subtractive structuring approach. That's radically different. And you can do that in Ableton Live. You can do it on other DAWs as well. But, you know, I feel when you've got a controller like Push or any of the other ones that are similar, like Launchpad, etc., just use it as a kind of sketch pad and a jamming kind of vibe. And of course, if you haven't got any of these MIDI controllers, you can always use your mouse, just clicking on the scenes, doing it that way. So there's lots of possibilities for everybody. But yeah, I'm really excited by what's going on here. You know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this slot and basically do the same thing. So I've got myself my duplications. I'm going to come in here and take that filter automation from one of these guys again. Let's do it on the second ones. Now the start position of the loop actually may bring out something a little bit different on here, so I'm going to find out. We'll see what happens. You know, it's great to experiment and have a play around, and you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes something really cool can occur. Let me take this row and create, insert a scene. There we go. So I got my, sorry, I just did that in the wrong place. Do the same again, and oh look, don't worry. There we go. Let's have a listen. Yeah, so remember when I said I was wondering how that would be affected by that loop start point? So you can see here that we've got something that's a little bit different, actually, to be honest. Let me see how that feels. I actually really like that as a contrast. And you know what's nice is to have these kind of opposites in your compositions. I might change my mind later on when I start jamming with this, but I'm going to do here filter 1, filter 2. I might come out with some different naming as well. I'm going to see how it progresses. So look, we've got a clear distinction between the kind of top section and its variations with the filter, and then the lower section and the variations here. So I think I got myself some really nice foundations there. And the next thing that I would do personally is start to think about maybe some kind of vocal of some sort, and maybe start layering in some effects and textures that are going to be there to trigger on top of this. So I took a break, had a quick listen, and I'm feeling actually that this isn't the right time to sort out the vocal. I want to actually look at some other elements, because I was playing this back, and you know, this is the benefit of having some space away from something. When I was playing it back, I started to feel, okay, my enthusiasm was good last time, but I'm starting to feel some gaps. So just a refresher. You know, this sounds great. I really like it. And then the switch. And of course, so that's all sounding great, but I definitely want to add something new. I was going through the folder here and I came across this, which I do think will be a good one. So look, with that running, let's come back. Now that's just a straight up usage of that sample, so I'm not doing anything clever with it, but I actually really like the sound of that. Now if you remember, we had this then transposing down, so I'm going to duplicate. The next thing should come down and replicate what we had before, which is -3 semitones. Let's take the original, let's make a copy, and then this one is going to be +2. So let's see how that sits, let's see how it sounds. So, you know, I'm going to leave it just as it is. I really like that. I think that sounds great. So, of course, you know, we're manipulating it a little bit. We're using the transpose there, customizing it. Don't feel that you have to make absolutely everything you're doing unique. When you're pushing forward, keeping the momentum going with your track, sometimes something like this can be the perfect little thing to keep you moving forward. So I'm going to call that deep chord stab. And, you know, the way we've been looking at this, we've been building up with this kind of, the same kind of progression. So we've got here the -3 and then the +2, which means that hopefully this is going to sound great up here. And also it's going to sound really good down on the other section as well. So I'm going to drag a copy down here. Let's bring this all the way down. And let's check this out down here as well. So on my push, I'm going to have to just push the arrow key down to go through these, and let's have a look. Sounds great. And let's try with the open one. Now something that I've been feeling for a little while is that the rose is a little bit loud. So let me bring this down. Maybe the new chord stab's too loud now as well. Yeah, that's great. And I'm just going to keep rolling. You know, the vibe that I'm feeling now is that I want to get this kind of vocal thing. I've got no idea what it is, and I think this is working great. I'm really starting to get a feel that this is really coming together. And just going to create a new audio track, and I'm going to drop in something. I've got no idea what that's going to be just yet. So let's take a look, and I'm just going to grab myself a little bit more space up here. And where are we? This stick within the Dubspot and Loop Masters folder. And where am I going to find some vocals? Have we got some vocals here? I think I've heard some somewhere. Let me try it. Effects and Vox loops.
Just tell them about. Just tell them about Loop Masters. Just tell them.
Okay, of these two, this is better, but I'm not really sure that's what I want, to be honest. Let me have a listen to this a second. Do you know what? There's something quite nice about that. Sometimes it's a good idea just to drop things on top. I mean, I'm looking for a vocal sample at the moment. I'm just not finding it. Let me see. Maybe there's some in some categories that are not too clear. I mean, maybe... Oh, here we go. Vox loops. Let me try this in minimal. Yeah, that's actually sounding quite good. Okay, now let me just see. I suspect we might need to transpose this. Let me see. Let's take this. Let's go, as we have done before, -3. This one here, +2. Oh, let's take that up. Let's have a listen to that now. Let me take these 3, bring a copy down, trigger it again. Okay, do you know what? There's something not quite right about this. So you know what it is? I'm feeling. Let's take this back up. Okay, you know what it is? I need to do some clip envelope modulation. So if we go to the clip and we go to volume, we're just going to do Command B. I'm going to take the volume right down on this. That feels like it's working better for me. The other thing though is that this is on Beats algorithm and that's starting to feel a little bit too grainy. Let me try complex. And that's in fact the same with the chord stab. Now I've got this in isolation. If we want to keep audio fidelity high, we need to consider this stuff. So let's see what that sounds like at complex. Okay, we're in a much better world of quality. Let's duplicate that. -3. This one here, duplicate. And this one we're going for the +2. Let's take the solo off. copy these over again. Yeah, that's good. Another thing that I'm just thinking at the moment, when I'm working like this, I start to get a little bit excited and a bit vibed up about stuff, which means that sometimes I can get a bit chaotic, and in terms of the composition, I can go off on tangents. So I'm just warning you here that I'm going to do something that's a bit different, and that's to dive back into the bass idea one. And that technique that I used for adding some kind of futurized texture, I'm going to bring on here as well. So I'm feeling that I want to get, let's go and use erosion again. Okay, so let's bring this on, and I'm going to bring up the amount. Let me listen to that bass, the first one. See what it does? Got a nice kind of futuristic ringing tone to it. Going to experiment with the frequency. And you know what I might do on this is to add some reverb. Okay, so we've got here the send and return, and I've got a funny feeling I set up a reverb before I did here. Now we've got to be cautious with reverbs on bass because it can end up really kind of thickening the mix out, making it feel a little bit messy. But this has got a real contemporary kind of vibe to it. See how that sounds in the mix. Now the good thing about this on the send and return configuration is I can go through to the reverb return, dropping something like the EQ3 and roll off some of those low frequencies so it doesn't feel too cluttered. Just going to see how that bass and the kick sound. So I haven't played this out loud on speakers just yet. I'm going to bring the bass down a little bit, and you know, I want to play it out loud on speakers and just give it a once over. I'll do that at some point. Okay, do you know what I'm going to do just to give this a little bit of bounce? So when I'm progressing through the track idea and I want it to feel a little bit more kind of gel together, I'll drop in the glue compressor. I tend to take this for a slower attack so that I don't squash all of those transients. The release I do tend to put on auto and see how it feels, and I'm just going to go for a little bit of bounce on here, a little bit of gain reduction. So let's have a listen. So let's bring in the volume down a bit. I'm going to bring the make up. That's sounding nice. Going to push it into the limiter just a little bit more. So for me, that's got a lot more liveliness to it, a little bit more bounce. So in terms of what we've just done there, we've added this nice kind of deep chord stab. There's this vocal element going on here, bit of space onto the actual bass. Now thinking a little bit about mixing, adding a touch of the glue compressor to bind things together, and then pushing a little bit harder into the limiter to give it that nice kind of contemporary loud sound. So it's really shaping up. Let me have a think, you know, what's missing? As I said before, we don't want to clutter things up too much, and I'm wondering about some kind of percussion. I'm not sure. Let me just check something. No, I'm thinking about this properly. If I was to bring in some percussion, it's going to end up perhaps cluttering things up too much. There's a great sense of space that's occurring on this at the moment, and when you're making electronic club music, you don't want to overload everything. You want to keep that nice kind of clarity going on. And so for this particular style, I think I've got what I need there. Maybe it might be like a tambourine loop or a shaker or something. That could be something worth investigating. So that's the one thing I'm going to try and drop in on here. So let's take a look inside and see if we've got anything that's going to kind of match up. Maybe in here we've got some music loop, percussion tops loop, something like this could be good. That's actually quite nice. Okay, part of that could be good. It's a little bit messy. There's that tom sound in there that I think isn't going to work. Let me bring this over and we're going to take a look. Okay, let's try and find a section. Okay, maybe. Maybe what I should do is literally just try and EQ that tom out. That could be the best way to do this. So if we go to audio effects and let's find ourselves, I might go here with the EQ8 to give me some more flexibility. Let me take that bottom end and roll it right up. Take away some of the extra highs on there. It's got a real nice kind of scratchy, thin texture to it. I think that could be really good. Let me take a look at the timing on here, because that feels like it's a little bit out with the groove that we've got, which is this 16th kind of vibe. So let's go here to quantize. Sorry, the wrong one. Quantize. We want 16T. So let's come and drop down that groove and take a look. And then back in. Okay, now I was actually thinking that was in a different position relative to the beginning of the bar. So I've just changed the start point on that loop. And let's bring this down for that section. Let's bring this down here as well. I could really do with a little bit of housekeeping here, getting some naming correct. Sometimes when you're in the heat of the composition, you forget about stuff like that, you know. Let's have a look. It's just a little bit too loud. Let me bring that down. Just for a little bit of detail on here, what I might do is add a phaser as well. So just a little bit of spatial movement on there. Something like that's quite nice there. You can hear that sweeping effect going on. Get a high number of poles, really kind of thicken out that effect. I like that. Maybe let's take the rate to 8 bars. So you really get a sense of this moving in time. tell you what, another thing to do as well, before I take a break and consider what's next, let's drop in a compressor. So this is just to even out the different volume levels going on with the compressor. This is to even out the volume levels on the Rhodes. Just going to bring this down. Let's put it onto RMS as well, because peak is really designed for drums and percussion. So you get a sense of the movement here. I want to check this against the filtered sections. Great. Really hearing some rumble there on that bottom end. So do you know what? I'm just going to roll this a little bit. I'm going to take the attack a bit faster. Slow the release a touch. Yeah, what I wanted to do there was just to see how the compressor was working with those contrasting sections. So where we had the filter open with the Rhodes wobbling around, and then the filter coming down and then closing the brightness off, giving that warm kind of pulse to it. And I wanted to see how the compressor was working on both. It's always important to check the behavior of a compressor across different sections.